Welcome to our brand new series of Illusions Coffee Table. Today we have with us our very own Mr. Tarek. Firstly, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Parth.
One of our main topics, we've been discussing over the week is in relation to the problems we face in the lab. And I think today you have a great subject that you want to bring up. Right?
Yes. And I'm sure most of the dentists already can assume what the subject will be. Subject is clearance, It is basically, I would say, ancient old problem that we have in the lab. And I'm sure it's not only here, but rather concern of most clinicians and most labs all over the world.
Definitely.
So the craziest part is we have now the 3D technologies, we have the latest technologies in the market, but that little, simple, small thing really tweaks all the attention till date.
Absolutely, and that's what guarantees the success or the dreaded failures, right?
Yes.
Let's face it, we have a cheat code, right?
Yeah.
We see it on the models, we see it right there when the doctor has to really see it with the impressions, and your patients are
It is in fact very unfair. No, we can turn the model, we can look from the back into the patient and say, oh, here there is no clearance, doctor, you missed it, and then finally at the end, but they have to suffer, they have to call the patient in again, or the prosthesis breaks, some chipping will happen. So today we wanted just to a little bit share what we gathered as possibilities as for today's simple tricks that could avoid a later mishap or inconvenience of the customer and the patient. So let us start with maybe the most simple one. Like what I experience when I speak with the clinicians, I found out that many clinicians take first the impression, and then the impression is done, then they go and take a bite, take their bite material by the time and send the bite as well to the customer. That means they send the bite to us in the lab.
And we mount it. We are mounting with the bite. Yes.
So now we could just revise the story. First take the bite, then you can, with this nice veneer caliper, you can just measure your bite and see if you really have adequate clearance.
Yeah.
And once you see, here I need a little bit more preparation, you can do the corrections. Once everything is settled and you have the real required, let's say minimum 1 millimeter, that is the standard that we basically need for most of the materials. Once this is done, then you proceed to the impression or the intraoral scan.
It's such a simple trick, but I never really got to it because in all my experience, working in Europe for the export division, I always came across all those tips and tricks about a fleximeter and a occlusion clearance guy, but it's a simple trick everybody could use, just have a bite record before the impression.
Yes.
And that's the trick. I think then you get an exact view of where is the clearance that could be out, measure it, and then how would it go for a zirconia, 0.8, 0.9, 1 millimeter?
I suggest we should really keep the 1 millimeter because we have a little bit tolerance that we need to always keep in mind. We have the virtual civil gap, what is actually in the progress, in the evaluation, in the evolution of the material and technologies. We sometimes forgot we had, this space and now it's suddenly turned a virtual space, or sometimes also creates a discussion if crown is loose or not loose, but let us get to that in a different session. So we have basically the virtual spacer of, let's say, 100-150 micron, and then you want a little bit tolerance to adjust occlusion. Let's plan for that also 100 micron, and if you say the zirconia should be 0.8 millimeter, so then already you end up with the 1 millimeter. I think the 1 millimeter is
1 millimeter is kind of safe, yes, because you also not just have to cover the occlusal clearance that gives us the gap for this virtual spacer, but also for a minor disocclusion. Let's face it, a good disocclusion is required, right?
Correct. That is, so that's it. The 1 millimeter I think is a very good measure figure to stick on. So that is one. Another great solution what lately is making its round in the market is this prep shop. It's such a primitive and simple, but very often the best inventions are really solving a problem and are very simple. So you have basically this prep show guide coming with 3 different measures. It's 1mm, 1.5 and 2mm, different color coded, and one design a little bit more suitable for the measurement in the anterior, one design for the posterior measurement. And then let's just look at it. You can take it, and this solves exactly the problem. You know, when you have the patient and you pull the cheek and ask the patient to bite to check if you have enough clearance, patient bites and it looks appropriate from the buccal side. Mostly the problem, the zone is not on the buccal side but in the hidden area, in the palatal lingual area. So this prep show just allows you to enter in the region and run it through the occlusion and see if it passes or not. And it's just this 1mm, 1.5mm or 2mm thickness that you can check. Very easy to use. It's an amazing idea put into action and will support you.
Yeah, it's just so simple and primitive. Like you said, it's brilliant.
Yes,
it's just a simple, the most basic tool that just is best indicative while we are at the preparation stage with the patient. I think it's a great solution for a clinician. How was your experience just using that in the lab? I mean, we could even check right away, right?
Yes, and you know, we did exactly this. Very, very good. So we are in a very good position to have a good communication with the customer, show them pictures, try in, and make sure the case before it really goes into process has sufficient clearance so that we don't face exactly these problems in the later stage.
Yes, and we know what happens when we have less clearance and we're just having to go ahead with the same and the fractures or the dreaded remakes. So definitely want to avoid those. Definitely want to avoid the bad experience with patients. And I think that's a great solution. This is fantastic 2 tips and tricks. Stay tuned for more.